Hello everyone and welcome to the Certificate-Based Authentication webinar presented by GlobalSign. I'm Julie Walensky with the GlobalSign marketing team and I want to thank you all for joining us today. I'm happy to introduce today's presenter, Sid Desai. Sid is the head sales engineer for GlobalSign and is an IT expert with a strong passion for sales and consulting. He's responsible for rolling out authentication solutions to our customers and understands the technicalities of the applications and can translate them into everyday terms. So please feel free to send any questions you have over to Sid so we can cover them during the Q&A portion after the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Julie, for the introduction. Now that we've covered all the logistics, let's go ahead and jump into the material. So today we'll start off covering the need for strong user and machine authentication. We will see how and why passwords, users, and machines can't be trusted in your organization. We'll then go into talking about certificate-based authentication solutions, share with you how certificate-based authentication works, and towards the end cover a deployment example that uses certificates. So let's start with the current state of things. We have here what I like to call a circle of distrust going on. Between unreliable passwords, users, and devices, there's a lot of room for error. Let's take a look at how each member of the circle can let us down. Passwords. The most commonly used form of authentication is also the weakest form. This type of authentication continues to be a single factor, using mainly a username and a password. The problem is that passwords are notoriously unreliable. Passwords are often the weakest link. In fact, 76% of network intrusions involved weak credentials, and stolen passwords played a role in about half of data breaches that involve hacking. There are also a wide variety of attacks that exist today whereby an adversary can acquire a user's password, take over that person's identity with techniques such as brute force attacks, eavesdropping, and social engineering tactics. In spite of that, today, 63% of organizations continue to rely on usernames and passwords alone. Password authentication places a great deal of responsibility in the hands of the user. Chosen passwords must be sufficiently complex so as not to be easily guessed, but simple enough to be committed to memory and not stored in any physical location. With an average of about 8.5 passwords to remember for work-related accounts alone, it's not surprising that users often resort to reusing passwords or writing them down. In fact, 50% of the users use the same passwords for personal and work-related accounts, and about 21% write their passwords down. In addition to user authentication, there's a growing need to identify and control which machines can access and operate on your network. Rogue machines are both inside and an outside threat. When I say machines, I really mean desktops, laptops, servers, tablets, mobile devices, etc. Typically in organizations, there are many employees wanting to use their personal computers. That may bring malware into their corporate network, and sometimes our IT admins have no control over security policies. And if not restricted, there are always malicious third parties looking for an easy access point. What people don't realize is that once the infected machine has access inside your network, they'll be able to communicate with the outside world or the hacker in a much more easy way. In fact, if we run through some quick numbers here, I'm sure at least more than half of the organizations out there today would like to set up some kind of wireless access point restricting access to outside devices and letting only people and devices who are supposed to have access into your network. Apart from rogue machines, there are always other ways for the hacker to manipulate the computers and network to reroute traffic to a rogue gateway, or using network sniffers to collect network traffic information. So we have established that there are some inherent weaknesses in the current state of security. But what does that actually mean? Recent research from the Ponemon Institute found that an average cost of a data breach is $3.5 million US. This includes tangible costs like any resulting from legal fees or consulting fees, but also things like identity protection services you may need to offer your customers in the aftermath. And of course, the effects, the damage to your reputation will have on your customers, current customers, and new businesses. So to recap, we can't rely on passwords anymore. Our users can't be trusted. There's a growing threat to rogue machines. and the costs of a data breach is increasing every year. All signs point to the need for stronger authentication and access control. Certificates are a great option for both user and machine authentication. With the use of digital certificates, only users, machines, or devices with properly configured certificates will be able to access and operate on your networks. There's always a trade-off between increasing security and the costs involved and burden on end users. Unlike some authentication methods like biometrics or one-time password tokens, there's no additional hardware needed here. Certificates are stored locally on the machine or the device. This not only saves on costs, but can also alleviate management pains around distributing, replacing, and revoking tokens. Using certificates is also easy for end users. After the certificate is installed, and guess what? With an Active Directory integration, this can happen automatically. There's nothing further to be done. When a user tries to log on or access a gated application or network, he'll be prompted to select his certificate from a list, and then will be given access to that resource. Most certificate-based authentication solutions come with a cloud-based management platform that makes it easy for admins to issue certificates to new employees, renew these certificates, or revoke certificates when an employee leaves the organization. Solutions that integrate with Active Directory can make the enrollment and the issuance process even easier by enabling auto-enrollment and silent installations. So one of the biggest benefits of using certificates is that, unlike some solutions that only work for users, like biometrics and one-time passwords, the same solution can be used for all endpoints, so users, machines, devices, and even the growing Internet of Things. Many enterprise applications and networks natively support X.509 digital certificates, the standard format for public key certificates. This means with just a few configuration changes, you can enable certificate-based authentication for many popular use cases such as Windows Logon, Google Apps, Salesforce, SharePoint, SAP, and access to remote servers via portals like Citrix or SonicWall. Also, using certificates allows for mutual authentication, meaning both parties involved in the communication are identifying themselves whether their communication is from a user to a user, or a user to a machine, or a machine to machine. All right, so it's clear that certificates can be a great solution to your authentication needs. But how do you actually get them to your end users and devices? Well, there are two main options here. You can either run your own in-house CA, usually using a Microsoft Certificate Services, or you can partner with a third-party CA like GlobalSign. Using an in-house CA, certificates are generally deployed using Microsoft Certificate Services, which leverages Active Directory to allow for auto-enrollment and silent installs. This means certificates can automatically be deployed without any manual intervention. If you're using a third-party CA, you have a couple of options for deploying certificates. You can, of course, manually request and install certificates individually. The majority of CAs offer some type of volume certificate management solution, which often includes features like bulk enrollment, so that you can register for multiple certificates at once. Many CAs now also offer Active Directory integrations as an alternative to running your own CA. This offers the same benefits of leveraging Microsoft Certificate Services, but allows you to outsource the PKI management, which can be pretty expensive and difficult to handle internally. We'll take a closer look at some of the benefits to partnering with a third-party CA next. It's free is the most often cited benefit to using an internal CA, but there are a lot of other things involved with running your own CA that may negate any surface cost savings. Partnering with a third-party CA means they manage all PKI services for you. You don't need to devote your own people and resources to things like maintaining availability, creating and managing a certificate policy and practice statement, staying up to date and complying with baseline requirements, and obtaining external audits. Not just that, there are certain other services and benefits that most CAs offer as part of their PKI offerings right off the box. Services like real-time revocation checking and OCSP, to name a few. These can quickly become difficult and expensive to manage in an in-house solution. Say you do decide to partner with a third-party CA. In this example, let's take a closer look at how you could use an Active Directory integration to automatically enroll for and install certificates for users and machines. We'll use GlobalSign's integration called the Auto-Enrollment Gateway as an example. In the first step, a domain-connected endpoint, such as a user, a server, a laptop, or any other device, logs on to the network for the first time. A request is sent to the Auto-Enrollment Gateway that brokers the request and passes it to a user directory, such as Active Directory, to check which certificate templates the endpoint has access to based on group policy. The correct templates are then sent back through the gateway to the endpoints. The endpoint makes another request to the gateway for the appropriate certificates, again based on certificate templates and group policy. The Auto-Enrollment Gateway then validates the request and sends the request via one of our APIs to GlobalSign's Software as a Service CA platform. Once processed, the certificate is sent back through the gateway and installed on the endpoint within seconds. The process is repeated for all domain-connected endpoints. Since everything comes back to group policy, it's easy for admins to control which users and machines receive which type of certificates. End users don't need to do anything, and certificates are automatically renewed. With the right kind of certificates in place, one can enable multiple certificate-based use cases such as client authentication, wireless network access control, two-factor authentication to certain applications, virtual smart card redirection for remote desktop connections, and most enterprise applications that are in use today are made to be PKI and certificate aware right from the get-go. So there are hardly any compatibility issues that you as an organization has to work through. So in conclusion, passwords are weak, users and devices can't be trusted. Don't keep your enterprise at risk. Replace the circle of distrust with certificate-based authentication. All right, so if any of the things that I talked about today were confusing to you, if you still have any more questions, of course, feel free to get in touch with us directly. Definitely check our website, www.globalsign.com, or follow us on any social media networks to get the most up-to-date information. Before we end our conversation, let's look at any questions some of you have posted in the chat box. Please don't hesitate to speak up or send us your feedback, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can in the next few minutes. So one of the questions that we received here is, can these certificates for authentication be installed on USB for employees to carry around? Yes, absolutely. They can't be installed on any USB storage drive that people use to carry around with their data, but there are special USB tokens that have smart card chips in them that companies use to enable this use case. So employees will be able to install these certificates on these tokens and can use them anywhere. There are multiple token vendors like SafeNet, GoldKey, Oberthur that have such options. One of the questions is, can we have a demo? Absolutely, you can definitely reach out to us. One of our GlobalSign reps will contact you and we can schedule an individual demo based on your needs. The third question I have here is, what kind of devices are supported? Well, technically, all devices that have the ability to use digital certificates, pretty much. Every computer, tablet, or mobile device out there today has a local certificate store that can be leveraged to use certificates. It's simply a matter of what your actual use case is and what applications you need that need certificate-based authentication. If you're looking for a specific use case for your organization, you can reach out to us directly. I'm trying to go through some more questions here. Is it cost-effective for a 150-user network? Again, I think the answer is it really depends. If you are really looking to automate your certificate provisioning process and are hoping that the number of users that are going to be using these certificates are going to increase over time, then absolutely, this is definitely the way to go. It definitely eases out the certificate management issues that typical small or medium organizations face. We'll take a few more questions here. One of the questions is, do these certificates work with Cisco ASA 5500? To be honest, I'm not sure on the specifics of the ASA 5500, but if it's a firewall or any such appliance with support for use of certificates for authentication, absolutely, we'll definitely work with these. Let's see, other questions. Can I use these on web apps? Absolutely. One of our most common use cases we have heard from people is that they use these client authentication certificates to log on to their corporate web apps, email, Salesforce, even custom apps, as long as they support the certificate-based authentication. All right, I think we'll wrap up right here. Before the end, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us directly. You can get in touch with us through our blog, through our website, and through our Twitter. Thank you so much.